The elevator ascended with mechanical precision, each floor marked by a soft chime that echoed Elena Martinez's heartbeat. 27, 28, 29. She watched the numbers climb, her fingers clutching the manila envelope so tightly the edges crumpled. Inside were divorce papers bearing her signature, blue ink on white paper, 6 years of marriage reduced to legal terminology and asset division. Floor 32. The doors slid open with a whisper, revealing the gleaming reception area of Cole, Harrison and Associates. Elena had been here countless times, but today the space felt foreign and final. Chrome and glass everywhere, expensive art on the walls, the kind of place designed to intimidate and impress. Sebastian's world, not hers. She approached the receptionist with measured steps, her sundress suddenly feeling too casual among the power suits and briefcases. Before she could speak, a familiar voice stopped her. Elena. She turned. Sebastian stood in the hallway leading to his office, tall and striking in a navy suit that probably cost more than her monthly bakery expenses. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, unusual for him, and there were shadows under his green eyes that suggested sleep had become as elusive for him as it had for her. They stared at each other across the polished floor, the space between them charged with everything unsaid over the past 8 months of separation. "I wasn't sure you'd come yourself," Sebastian said, his voice carefully controlled. "You could have mailed them or had your attorney deliver them." Elena lifted the envelope. 6 years deserved better than certified mail. Something flickered in his eyes, too quick to identify. He glanced at the receptionist, then back to Elena. "Come to my office. Please." It wasn't a request, exactly, but it wasn't a demand either. Elena hesitated, every instinct screaming that entering his private space was dangerous. But she'd come this far. She could manage 10 more minutes. His office overlooked the Boston harbor, floor-to-ceiling windows framing sailboats and seagulls against afternoon sky. Elena had helped him decorate this space 6 years ago when he made junior partner. She'd chosen the leather chairs, the mahogany desk, the abstract painting above his bookshelf. Now it felt like visiting a museum of their shared past. Sebastian closed the door behind them. The click of the latch seemed too loud, too final. "Can I get you anything? Coffee, water?" His lawyer voice, professional and distant. "I'm fine. I just need your signature and I'll go." Elena placed the envelope on his desk, stepping back quickly as if it might burn her. Sebastian looked at the envelope but didn't touch it. Instead, he moved to the window, his back to her, shoulders tense beneath expensive fabric. The silence stretched. "Do you remember the night we met?" he asked suddenly. Elena's throat tightened. "Sebastian, please don't. You were teaching that couples cooking class at the community center." He continued as if she hadn't spoken. "I'd signed up to impress a client who was big on experiential team building. I had no idea how to dice an onion." Despite herself, Elena smiled slightly at the memory. "You nearly cut your finger off making marinara sauce. I had to wrap your hand in a kitchen towel. You laughed at me." Sebastian turned, and the vulnerability in his expression stole her breath. "But not meanly. You laughed like you found me endearing instead of incompetent. Nobody had ever made me feel like it was okay to fail at something. That was a long time ago." Elena forced the words out. "Was it?" He took a step closer. "Because standing here right now, looking at you in that yellow dress with your hair falling out of its bun the way it always does, it feels like yesterday." Elena's hand went self-consciously to her hair, finding the loose strands he'd mentioned. She'd woken up this morning, dressed in the first thing she grabbed, pulled her dark curls into a messy bun without looking in a mirror. She hadn't expected to care what she looked like for this meeting. She'd been wrong. "We can't go back," she said, hating how her voice wavered. "Too much has happened. Too much time spent apart. I don't want to go back." Sebastian took another step. They were close now, close enough that she could smell his cologne, cedar and something crisp that had always reminded her of autumn. I want to go forward. Differently this time. You say that now. Elena's eyes burned with unshed tears. But nothing has changed, Sebastian. You're still here at 7 in the morning and leaving after midnight. Your phone still rings through dinner, if you even come home for dinner. The partnership you wanted so badly, you got it 3 months ago, and I still barely saw you. I turned it down. Elena blinked. What? The partnership. I turned it down 2 weeks ago. Sebastian's jaw tightened. That's why the papers took so long to reach you. I've been to figure out how to tell you, how to explain that everything you said in your letter when you left was true. I chose work over us. Over you. And I will regret that for the rest of my life. The words hit her like a physical blow. Sebastian had been working toward partnership since before they married. It was his singular focus, his obsession, the thing that had slowly eroded their relationship until nothing remained but polite strangers sharing an apartment. You're lying. But even as she said it, she knew he wasn't. Sebastian had many faults, but dishonesty wasn't one of them. I'm not. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded letter, handing it to her. Read it. With shaking hands, Elena unfolded the paper. It was on firm letterhead, a formal declination of partnership offer, dated 2 weeks prior, signed by Sebastian in his distinctive scrawl. I don't understand. She looked up at him, confusion and anger and something dangerous like hope warring inside her. Partnership was everything to you. You sacrificed our marriage for it. I sacrificed our marriage because I was a coward. Sebastian's voice roughened with emotion. Because my father worked himself to death for his career and I thought that was what success looked like. Because I was terrified that if I stopped moving, stopped achieving, would realize I was empty inside. And because admitting I needed you more than I needed professional validation felt like weakness. Elena's hands trembled. The letter fluttered to the floor between them. Why are you telling me this now? Why not 3 months ago? 6 months ago? Why wait until I've signed the papers? Because I'm a fool. Sebastian's green eyes were wet now, tears he wasn't bothering to hide. Because I kept thinking I could fix it myself, that if I just worked a little harder, made a little more money, proved myself a little more, you would see your worth and come back. But you were right to leave. I wasn't giving you a marriage. I was giving you an empty apartment and broken promises. A tear escaped down Elena's cheek. She wiped it away angrily. You hurt me, Sebastian. Do you understand that? I spent years waiting for you to choose me, to pick me over just one meeting, one case, one client. And you never did. I know. His voice broke. God, Elena, I know. And I'm so sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry. They stood facing each other, years of pain and longing suspended between them. Elena's mind screamed at her to grab the papers, demand his signature, and leave before her heart shattered completely. But her feet wouldn't move. Sebastian took a tentative step closer. When she didn't retreat, he lifted his hand slowly, giving her time to pull away. His fingers brushed her cheek where the tear had fallen, his touch achingly gentle. Don't go, he whispered. Not yet. Please, Elena. Give me 1 hour to explain everything. 1 hour, and if you still want the divorce, I'll sign the papers without argument. But please, just listen to what I have to say. Elena closed her eyes, feeling the warmth of his hand against her skin, the familiar presence of him wrapping around her like a memory. This was dangerous. This was how she got hurt before, letting hope override reason. But when she opened her eyes and saw the raw desperation in his face, the man she'd fallen in love with staring back at her through the mask of the distant attorney, she found herself nodding. 1 hour, she said, her voice barely audible. But this doesn't change anything. The relief that flooded Sebastian's expression told her she was lying to both of them. Sebastian guided Elena to the leather couch by the window, the same one where she'd once brought him lunch during happier times. He sat across from her in the matching chair, maintaining distance as if afraid proximity might spook her. "I've been seeing Dr. Patricia Chen for 3 months, he began without preamble. A therapist specializing in work addiction and relationship trauma." Elena's eyes widened. Sebastian had always dismissed therapy as something other people needed, viewing it as an admission of failure rather than a tool for growth. "After you left, I convinced myself I was fine," he continued, his fingers lacing together nervously. "I threw myself into work even harder, took on more cases, volunteered for the partnership track committee. Then one night I came home at 2 in the morning and realized I couldn't remember what day it was. I'd worked 90 hours that week and couldn't recall a single meaningful moment." He stood abruptly, pacing to the window. "I sat in our empty apartment, in the silence, and had a panic attack. Full-blown, couldn't breathe, thought I was dying. The ER doctor said it was stress and anxiety. She gave me Dr. Chen's card." Elena watched him, seeing tension in every line of his body. This wasn't the confident attorney she'd married. This was someone stripped bare, vulnerable in ways Sebastian had never allowed himself to be. "Dr. Chen asked me what I was running from," Sebastian said quietly. "I told her nothing, I was running toward success. She asked me what success looked like. I described partnership, corner office, 7-figure salary. Then she asked if I had all that, who would I celebrate with?" His voice cracked. "I realized I had no answer. Because the only person I'd ever wanted to share my victories with was you, and I'd driven you away pursuing victories you never cared about." Elena's throat tightened. "Sebastian. Let me finish, please." He turned from the window. 2 months ago, my father's former colleague had a heart attack at 53. He survived, but barely. I went to visit him in the hospital, and he looked at me and said, "Don't end up like your dad, Cole. Don't let work kill you before you've lived." Sebastian's father had died of a stress-induced heart attack when Sebastian was 25, collapsing in his office after billing a 100-hour week. It had shaped everything about how Sebastian approached his career, though Elena had never fully understood how until now. "I realized I was following his exact path," Sebastian continued. "Working myself to death, sacrificing relationships, convincing myself it was noble somehow. My father missed my childhood for work. He missed my mother's final years before cancer took her. And I was doing the same thing to you." He moved to his desk, pulling out another folder. "This is my resignation letter from Cole, Harrison. I'm leaving at the end of the month." Elena stood, shock propelling her to her feet. "You're quitting?" "Sebastian, this firm is your career. You've been here for 10 years. And I've been miserable for most of them." His laugh was bitter. "I stayed because I thought I had to prove something to my father's memory. But Dr. Chen helped me see I was proving nothing except my willingness to destroy my own life for approval from a dead man." He handed her the folder. Inside was his resignation letter, along with documents showing he'd been hired by a small non-profit legal clinic across town, offering services to low-income families. "It's part-time," Sebastian explained. 25 hours a week maximum. The pay is a fraction of what I make here, but it's meaningful work. Family law, helping people who actually need help, not corporations protecting their bottom lines." Elena stared at the papers, her mind reeling. This was insane. Sebastian was walking away from everything he'd worked for, everything he'd sacrificed their marriage to achieve. Why? The word burst out of her. Why now? After everything, why this dramatic change? Sebastian stepped closer, his green eyes intense. "Because I finally understood what you've been trying to tell me for years. Success without someone to share it with is just expensive loneliness." Achievement without love is an empty trophy case. And I would rather live in a studio apartment working a modest job with you by my side than have everything I thought I wanted and spend every night alone. Tears streamed down Elena's face now, uncontrollable and unwanted. You're saying everything I needed to hear 2 years ago. 3 years ago. Why couldn't you see this when it mattered? Because I was blind and stupid and terrified. Sebastian's own tears fell freely. Because admitting I needed you felt like weakness, and I'd spent my whole life believing weakness was unacceptable. Because I inherited my father's pride along with his workaholic tendencies, and it nearly destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me. Elena shook her head, anger mixing with her grief. I begged you, Sebastian. I begged you to come home for dinner, to take a weekend off, to just be present. And every time, you chose work. I know. His voice was wrecked. And I hate myself for it. If I could go back and change every choice, I would. But I can't. All I can do is show you now that I've learned, that I've changed, that I understand what I threw away. People don't change, Elena whispered. Not really. Old patterns resurface. You'll resent me eventually for the career you gave up. Then let me prove you wrong. Sebastian took her hands, the contact sending electricity through her despite everything. I'm not asking you to tear up those papers today. I'm not asking you to move back in or pretend the last year didn't happen. I'm asking for a chance to show you, slowly and consistently, that I'm different now. His thumb stroked across her knuckles, the familiar gesture undoing her carefully constructed defenses. Dr. Chen suggested couples therapy if you're willing. Structured sessions where we can work through everything with professional help. And I'm proposing rules: mandatory date night once a week, no phones. Daily check-ins, even if it's just 5 minutes. Complete transparency about work schedules and commitments. You have veto power over any work obligation that interferes with our time. Elena looked down at their joined hands, his fingers intertwined with hers like they'd done thousands of times before. His hands were the same, long-fingered and strong, but with new calluses she didn't recognize. What are these from? She touched the rough patches on his palms. Sebastian smiled slightly. I've been taking woodworking classes on Saturday mornings. Dr. Chen suggested finding a hobby that wasn't work-related. I'm terrible at it, but it's the first time in years I've done something just because I enjoyed it. Something in Elena's chest cracked. She imagined Sebastian, who'd never been remotely crafty, hunched over wood projects, choosing to spend his precious Saturday mornings learning something new. Not for advancement, not for networking, but simply for the experience. I started painting again, she admitted quietly. After I moved out. Just watercolors in my apartment above the bakery. Nothing good, just me remembering what it felt like to create something for myself. I'd love to see them. Sebastian's voice was soft. If you'd let me. They stood there, hands clasped, years of hurt and longing suspended between them. Elena's rational mind screamed warnings about trusting him again, about opening herself to more pain. But her heart, traitorous and hopeful, remembered how it felt to be loved by this man when he was fully present. One dinner, she heard herself say. Not tonight, but this week. Somewhere neutral, not the apartment, not my place. And you tell me everything. Every change, every insight from therapy, every plan you've made. Complete honesty. Hope blazed in Sebastian's eyes. Anything. Everything. Name the time and place. Thursday. 7 o'clock. That Italian place in the North End where we had our first date. Giacomo's. Sebastian's smile was tremulous. I'll be there at 6:30. Elena pulled her hands free, immediately missing his warmth. This doesn't mean anything is fixed, Sebastian. This is just dinner. Just talking. I understand. But his expression said he saw it for what it was, a crack in her armor, a possibility where none had existed an hour ago. Elena turned toward the door, needing distance before she did something foolish like kiss him. She made it 3 steps before his voice stopped her. "Elena?" She looked back. Sebastian stood framed by the window, afternoon light making him look younger somehow, like the man who'd fumbled with pasta dough and stolen her heart. "Thank you," he said simply, "for giving me this chance. I won't waste it." Elena nodded, not trusting her voice, and left before the tears came again. In the elevator descending, she stared at the manila envelope still clutched in her hands, divorce papers unsigned, their future suddenly uncertain in ways it hadn't been when she arrived. She'd come to end things. Instead, she'd opened a door she'd thought sealed forever. Whether that was wisdom or foolishness, only time would tell. Thursday arrived with autumn rain, the kind that painted Boston streets in reflection and made everything feel suspended between seasons. Elena changed outfits 3 times before settling on a simple burgundy dress, her hair loose around her shoulders. She told herself this was just dinner, just conversation, but her racing heart knew better. Giacomo's was tucked on a side street in the North End, family-owned and intimate with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. She arrived exactly at 7, refusing to be early, refusing to seem eager. But Sebastian was already there, standing outside under the awning despite the rain, hands shoved in his jacket pockets. "You said 6:30, Elena said by way of greeting. I couldn't sit still. He smiled nervously. "I've been walking in circles for 20 minutes. Something about his honesty, his visible anxiety, softened her. This wasn't the smooth attorney who commanded courtrooms. This was just a man terrified of losing his last chance. Dinner started awkwardly, both of them too careful with words, too aware of everything unsaid. But slowly, over pasta and wine, real conversation emerged. Sebastian told her about therapy, about unpacking his relationship with his late father, about learning to identify emotions he'd spent years suppressing. Dr. Chen asked me to keep a feelings journal, he admitted, looking embarrassed. Every day, I have to write down 3 emotions I experienced and why. It's humiliating how hard it is sometimes. I'll sit there for an hour trying to identify anything beyond fine or busy. Elena found herself smiling. What did you write today? Nervous, hopeful, and terrified. His eyes met hers. All because of you, because of this dinner, because I know I might be sitting across from you for the last time. Her chest tightened. Sebastian. Let me say this. He reached across the table, stopping just short of touching her hand. I know I don't deserve another chance. I know I hurt you in ways that might be unforgivable. But these 3 months without you have been the longest of my life. Not because I missed having someone to come home to, but because I missed you specifically. Your laugh, your terrible singing in the shower, the way you leave flour handprints on everything when you're baking. Tears threatened again. You used to complain about the flour. I was an idiot. His voice roughened. I complained about the most beautiful parts of being married to you because I was too blind to see I was living my dream and calling it an inconvenience. Elena took a shaky breath. I wasn't perfect either. I shut down instead of fighting. I stopped telling you when things bothered me because I was tired of feeling like a burden. I built walls instead of bridges. We both did. Sebastian finally took her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. But maybe we can learn to build something different this time. Something stronger because it's built on honesty instead of assumptions. The touch undid her. All her carefully constructed defenses, her determination to keep emotional distance, crumbled under the familiar warmth of his skin against hers. She looked at their joined hands and remembered years of this, of casual touches and intimate moments, of a connection she'd thought lost forever. Come back to the apartment, Sebastian said quietly. Not to stay, just to talk more. It's still raining, and I don't want this night to end yet. Every warning bell in Elena's mind screamed danger. Going to the apartment meant crossing a line from which there was no easy return. But her heart, reckless and hopeful, had already decided. Just to talk, she agreed, knowing it was a lie they were both telling. The apartment was exactly as she remembered, her decorating touches still evident despite her absence. Sebastian had kept everything, even the throw pillows she'd made, even the photos of them traveling that she'd assumed he would pack away. "I couldn't take them down," he said, following her gaze to their wedding photo on the mantel. "Removing them felt like erasing you, and I couldn't do that. Even being surrounded by reminders of what I'd lost was better than pretending you'd never been here." Elena walked to the photo, touching the frame gently. They looked so young, so happy, so certain they could weather anything. When had that certainty become arrogance? She felt Sebastian behind her, his warmth radiating even without touching. "I miss you," he whispered. "Every single day, I miss you." Elena turned. They were inches apart, close enough that she could see gold flecks in his green eyes, close enough to feel his breath. The air between them crackled with tension, years of longing compressed into this single moment. "We shouldn't," she breathed, but her body swayed toward him. "I know." His hand came up, cupping her face with devastating tenderness. "Tell me to stop, Elena. Tell me this is a mistake, and I'll call you a cab right now." But she couldn't. Instead, she closed the distance, pressing her lips to his in a kiss that tasted like tears and wine and coming home. Sebastian made a sound low in his throat, his arms wrapping around her, pulling her close as the kiss deepened. They stumbled toward the bedroom, kissing desperately, pulling at clothes between breathless moments. This wasn't the mechanical intimacy of their final months together. This was raw and real, fueled by grief and hope and the recognition that they were both falling over a cliff with no guarantee of where they'd land. Sebastian paused at the bedroom door, his forehead pressed to hers. "Are you sure? Elena, if this is goodbye, tell me now. I can't survive hoping this means something if it doesn't." She kissed him again, pouring everything she couldn't say into the contact. "I'm not sure of anything except I need this. I need you. Just for tonight, can we pretend we're still us?" "We are still us," he murmured against her lips. "We were always still us, just lost for a while." They made love with an intensity that left them both shaking, reconnecting in the most fundamental way. Sebastian touched her like he was memorizing her, his hands trembling as they traced familiar paths. Elena let herself feel everything she'd suppressed for months, the love that had never really died, the attraction that time apart hadn't diminished, the bone-deep rightness of being in his arms. Afterward, they lay tangled together, breathing in sync, neither willing to break the spell. Sebastian's fingers traced lazy patterns on her shoulder while Elena's hand rested over his heart, feeling its steady rhythm. "Stay," he whispered into the darkness. "Not forever, not with promises neither of us can keep yet. Just stay tonight." Elena knew she should leave, should maintain boundaries, should protect herself from potential heartbreak. But wrapped in his warmth, listening to rain against windows, she couldn't find the strength. "Just tonight," she agreed, letting her eyes close. Sebastian's arms tightened around her.